This is one of his social media posts. I was sure to go on his Twitter and kind of look at some of the posts that he made to kind of get an understanding of who the kid was, where his mentality was, figure out some of his motives. And I think it's interesting how the media is labeling him. There's constant comparisons to his actions to that of, previous terrorists and, the concept of him using a bomb. And I think what he says, right, I guess through his manifesto or whatnot, the idea of him using a bomb was unpleasant to him or less satisfactory because it would involve possibly the death or the harm of innocent civilians, and therefore chose to use a firearm instead, believing that it will be cleaner. Now, the reason why I think that's interesting, right, and even when we look at his manifesto, the idea or the comparisons he makes when he references his CEOs to, parasites, etc., etc. This post, I think, kind of puts in perspective his frame of mind as it relates to some of those statements that he was making. This is, I guess, he was a big fan of this book right here, Industrial Society and Its Future. And there's a section here that I think speaks volume, which is the part that's highlighted. And it states, when all other forms of communications fail, violence is necessary to survive. I'm going to go on and read. You may not like his methods, but to see things from his perspective, it's not terrorism. It's war and revolution. Fossil fuel companies actively suppress anything that stands in their way, and within a generation or two, it will begin costing human lives by greater and greater magnitudes until the Earth is just a flaming ball orbiting third from the sun. Peaceful protest is outright ignored. Economic protest is impossible in the current system, so how long until we recognize that violence against those who lead us to such destruction is justified as self-defense? I'll go on. These companies don't care about you or your kids or your grandkids. They have zero qualms about burning down the planet for a buck. So why should we have any qualms about burning them down to survive? We're animals just like everything else on this planet, except we've forgotten the laws of the jungle and bend over for our overlords, when any other animal would recognize the threat and fight it to the death for their survival. Violence never solved anything is a statement uttered by cowards and predators. This is a quote that he found online referencing the book itself, right? And it starts with, had the balls to recognize that peaceful protest has gotten us absolutely nowhere. And at the end of the day, he's probably right. Oil barons haven't listened to any environmentalist, but they feared him. That's a fair point to make. I mean, how many times are people going to protest, right? If people care about the environments, I mean, we've had to fight to literally have companies be held accountable for dumping chemical waste in bodies of water, which would then have a significant impact on the ecosystem, have a significant impact on the quality of water that people are exposed to. These are very serious issues, and it doesn't just relate to the environmental issues in our society. I mean, how many protests are people going to have before these, the powers that be start listening, right? Politicians do not care about people. And I think, in my opinion, the frustration it breeds is what causes some of these, behaviors that we're seeing right now, right? When you have people who are disregarded for so long, and in fact, if you look at the majority of the comments that people are making and the overwhelming reaction from the public, I mean, it's night and day. It's simple. It's night and day. The vast majority of Americans understand him, right? And in fact, his actions speaks to the pain that a lot of Americans are going through. There was a news clip from CNN that stated how there was, a video about this event that was posted online, right? A news video. And there were 63 reactions, and 57,000 of those reactions were laughing emojis. And if you look at some of the comments on these news videos, you'll find that the majority of comments are people who are in support of his actions, right? Like, it's simple. People are frustrated. And I think the reason the media, and again, a lot of these CEOs, especially when it comes to like the healthcare industries, they don't really care about people. I mean, there is a post that I saw where hold on, let me see if I can find it. Like, look at this post right here, right? United Health CEO Andrew Whitty says that the company will continue the legacy of Brian Thompson and will combat unnecessary care for sustainability reasons. Unnecessary care. What does that mean, unnecessary care, right? And you have posts down here in comments, unnecessary care, like the pesky anesthesia, unnecessary care, like that chemo you need for cancer, combat unnecessary care. What the fuck does that even mean? Excuse me. The opposite of that is embracing necessary care. America is absolutely fucked in the asshole with no lube, just dry as fuck. Jesus Christ. Uh, but this is basically the sentiments that these people are having. There's no conscience that, okay, maybe there's a reason why these actions are occurring. Perhaps it's time to take a step back and try to analyze where we're going, where we've come from and where we're going, and the potential consequences of some of the decisions that we as a company are making. Like, bro, I've seen, comments. There was this one lady who said, and this was really heartbreaking. She said how, wow, I'd like to ask my son what he thinks about, their positions on healthcare. And oh, but wait, I can't because he's dead. I'd have to go speak to his urn. It's, come on, man. Like, why is it that American people have to struggle for stuff like this? We live in the wealthiest country supposedly, and yet you have Americans who are struggling to afford proper healthcare. People who work day in, day out, who pay their taxes, right? They pay their bills. They're there for their family members. And yet they can't even have proper health care, whether they're elderly, whether they're sickly, whether they're going through difficult. These people don't care. It's become like just a business. You can't make a business when it comes to people's health. And this is some of the problems that we're having. Now, of course, when it comes to the young man, some people are saying, he had back issues, he had surgery, this and the third, and he couldn't afford proper care. Therefore, the killing was vendetta. He had a vendetta, which may have motivated the killing of Brian Thompson. Look, whichever way you look at it, okay, his actions speak to the despair that many Americans feel, okay, and they disregard Brian Thompson's death because, in part, they felt disregarded by a lot of these health industries and corporate America in general. And our politicians are not doing a lot. I mean, when somebody can come to you and say, oh, we've put a cap on insulin, on the price of insulin, as if we're supposed to give you a batch for that. That should be the norm, the standard. That should be the norm and the standard. We shouldn't be sitting here applauding the politicians because they've done that. The reality is a lot of politicians don't care. America is divided in three groups, okay? You have the commoners, you have the politicians, and then you have the corporate elites, right? And it's become a game of tug of war where politicians are sitting there in the middle, and they come to the public and they say any kind of nonsense in order to get their support. And at the end of the day, they open a back door for corporate America to come in and then decide the policies that will affect America in the future. It's simple as that. And during those meetings where these policies are made, the American people are completely disregarded and completely forgotten. And this is where you start to see people having these types of mindset. And it leads them to commit these sorts of crimes. The majority of Americans don't care. Like, they're not. The people who are really concerned and who are really worried are people who are a part of corporate America, whether you're your CEOs. And as a matter of fact, you had a lot of people that were saying how they were receiving emails and all of a sudden they were getting approved when they've been held on hold for months, years. All of a sudden they were getting emails saying, your health care coverage has been approved, or, your application has been approved, et cetera, et cetera. People that were fighting to have certain types of medicines, all of a sudden are getting approved. It's like, is it what it takes? Is this what it takes? Like, people have to die. People have to commit violence for people to act decent. It's completely ridiculous. But this is the position we're in. If you guys enjoy the video, you guys enjoy the content, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out a great deal. As you know, I'm a very small channel. I'm aiming to grow and, of course, inform the public, and so we can continue to have these conversations and engage in civil discourse. It's always a pleasure for me to speak with you guys. And yeah, man, if you guys have any thoughts, please feel free to post them in the comments section.